Cycle 74 momentum day A, starting with our sort of mini AMRAPs, going along with the similar programming we've had the last couple of cycles, where you're going to do 1 rep of 2 different movements and continue to AMRAP that like an AMRAP style, and then we'll have a couple that are 30 seconds and 30 seconds. So the first exercise is a banded in and out jump into a banded squat. So for these, I sort of start them at the knees, right? So in, out, and then a banded squat. So it would be in, out jump, banded squat. You could take it down to the ankles if they want something to feel a little bit more challenging, or if they're not jumping, they can go in, out, in, and then find that banded squat. The goal with the band at the knees is to make sure that those knees stay tracking over the second toe, so they have to resist that band trying to pull them inward. Our second minute for the opener on day A momentum is going to be broken into a 30 seconds and 30 seconds. So this is going to be crunches and then a tall kneel kettlebell rainbow. So for the crunch, we're going to come to the floor. So for the crunch, it's typically the focus is that upper abdominal area. So their back should stay nice and flat, almost feeling like a hollow at this point. They can cross the arms here, which is what I would recommend, especially if they tell you they have a history of neck pain. Some people might have a harder time with their low back. So if for some reason this is giving them trouble for neck, shoulders, even with the modifications, you can always have them relax their arms and head and take it into a reverse crunch. It is going to change the area that we're focusing on, but it at least gives them an alternative that's not going to cause any achiness. From there, at that 30-second mark, they're going to come into their tall kneel. So on the knees, toes are tucked, squeeze those glutes so we're nice and stacked. And then we're going to take that kettlebell from our goblet position and we're going to go from hip up and over to opposite hip. So they really need to squeeze through the glutes to make sure they're not arcing or losing that stack position of the shoulders, and then continuing that rainbow for 30 seconds. If they get fatigued, just have them hold here and squeeze so that they're still working on trunk stability and core engagement. For the third minute, we are doing tricep overhead extension and then an overhead march. So one option is to use 2 dumbbells. I do think the single dumbbell option that I'm going to show is preferred, and I'll explain why here in a second. I'm going to take those completely overhead and then just bending at the elbows. You can let them bring those dumbbells together as they need, or trying to keep more parallel here. This is going to be more challenging on your tricep extension because the arms have to work independently, so there's more degrees of freedom. So once they've done their tricep extension, they would hold and do their overhead march, okay? Now, I personally am gonna have members go 1 heavy dumbbell over the head, tricep extension here, right? So 1 tricep extension into your march. The reason I'm gonna do it this way is because it's gonna allow their overhead march to be a little bit heavier, so they're gonna get more out of that exercise. So even though the 2 arms are gonna work together for their tricep extension, overall they're gonna be able to go heavier, which I think ultimately will give them the challenge that a lot of our members are looking for. Last minute for our opening sequence on day A is gonna be a single arm bent over row, switching at the 30-second mark. So one side for the first half, second side for the second half. We've had a lot of bent over row work over the last few cycles, so this should be pretty easy for them. Gives them an opportunity to go a little bit heavier. So they're gonna find that kettlebell. Back's gonna stay nice and flat, rowing the arm to even with the body and keeping that shoulder packed. So for this single arm bent over row, they do not have to touch the ground, because a lot of times if we do that, we're gonna unpack the shoulder or around the spine. The biggest thing we are looking for with the rows is we don't want that elbow to go back behind the body. When we do that, we're gonna stretch the bicep tendon and or tip that shoulder blade forward, which can cause shoulder pain. So making sure that as they row, they're coming even with the body and then maybe squeezing that shoulder blade a little bit, okay? So be really aware of the elbow not passing midline of the trunk. For speed and agility, we're doing a lot of lateral based work here. We have a lateral hurdle hop. So we have different height hurdles at different gyms, so let them decide what feels most appropriate. So 2 feet is our goal here, lateral hurdle hop. If they need, you can do a step so that they're still getting that lateral movement. You can also remove the hurdle and do a lateral line hop to make sure they're getting the plyometric, but maybe they don't feel comfortable going over an actual object. So different options there. Your other exercise is going to be a lateral bear crawl. So making sure we're in that nice strong bear. So coming into the tabletop, tucking the toes, bringing the knees up, and making sure everything stays nice and stacked as they move laterally through the ladder. So the goal here would be that they can put one hand in each block. So finding that bear, stepping out and following with the feet, okay? If they need to, they can go 2 hands. So that might be an option for somebody that has more hypermobility in their shoulders, or they feel a little more unstable on a single arm activity. For our power block, we are doing a rear foot elevated single leg hop with option to add a knee drive, preferred. This is something that we had, or at least we had something similar back in the fall, I believe. So I'm glad that it's coming back because it's an exercise that I really like, but also it couples nicely with some of that single leg directional work we were doing in Momentum Day B of this past cycle. So the rear foot elevated can be up to you and or the member in terms of the height of the box, or if they're on something lower or higher. The higher it is, the more challenging it's going to be because they're not going to be able to use this for balance or assistance, okay? So the goal here is that they are trying to do a hop into a knee drive, okay? So trying to pump the arms so that they can get that reciprocal motion here. I'm not doing a great job of demoing that because I'm talking during the motion, but if I'm here, up, okay? So that's the goal, and then trying to get that knee as high as possible. If that doesn't feel comfortable for them, you can always go into a pogo, so they're still getting that single leg work with the rear foot elevated. You can also bring the rear foot just into a toe touch or ball of the foot and have them come here. Okay, but the goal is big knee drive on the box. Second exercise here is going to be a half kneel wood chopper. Couples nicely with the tall kneel rainbow we did in our opening. So we're going to come into that half kneel, really squeeze the glutes here. So we want to make sure that we are not arcing in that low back because that means we're losing the core. So squeeze the glutes so that we're stacked. We do want to make sure we're not over tucking, right? We don't want to see the pelvis roll all the way under. We want a nice stack here. For a wood chopper, I like to hold the kettlebell by the horns and flip it the other way because then you can use the weight to kind of help with that motion. Okay, nice strong wood chopper, switching legs and directions of the wood chop at the halfway point. For our strength block, we're doing a banded fire hydrant into a donkey kick. So they're gonna come into that tabletop position with band around the knees, making sure everything stays nice and neutral through the lumbo-pelvic area. So lumbar spine and pelvis are neutral. We're not arcing that back or over rounding. Hands are stacked under the shoulders. We're gonna bring that leg out, back to neutral, and then donkey kick like you're trying to drive and stamp that foot onto the ceiling. Come back to center, fire hydrant out, donkey kick up. Switching at the halfway point, making sure when they hit that fire hydrant that we're not rotating open the pelvis. So the goal is that the hips stay nice and square and they're just trying to get as much range as they can out to the side. Similar with the donkey kick, we want them to get as high as they can without losing that midsection control. Second exercise for our strength block is going to be gorilla rows. Remember, gorilla rows, because we are on the ground and we are in a deeper squat, meaning less range of motion, we want to try to push them to go heavier. So we're in more of a sumo stance here. If they have a logo on their shirt, the logo should be forward, toasting up on that other kettlebell as they hit their gorilla row. Okay, prefer to alternate here because again, they get a little bit of relative rest while they hit the other side. A lot of these movements, we don't have a rep range on, so the goal is to try to get as many as you can in the allotted time. Balance and body weight. We have a TRX hamstring curl, which these are gonna be at the lower point. I believe Josiah said mid-shin. So I'll double check. And also we have a couple other of our coaches who are more certified in TRX than I am. But you're gonna put your feet in the bottom so that the cradle is supporting the heel. There is a much better way to do this than what I'm doing. So coming here, making sure that they are even. Now, with the TRX hamstring curl, the preference is that the hips always stay lifted off of the ground, and then we're curling in like so, keeping the hips nice and high. If they need an alternative, they can go one hamstring at a time, or just have them hold, maybe give them a dumbbell to do something overhead. But this can also be a good regression because we're still getting posterior chain. Because if we drop the hips and come here, they're really not getting as much posterior chain as if they just stay lifted. So again, TRX hamstring curl, keeping hips high as you curl those heels in towards the butt. Second exercise is gonna be a side plank. So side plank can be done on elbow, on straight arm, on knees, or on straight legs. The biggest thing is we want to make sure that we are squeezing those glutes forward so we're nice and stacked. A lot of times I will see members who try to keep the hips back and bring the knees too far forward. So make sure we're always in a straight line, whether we're on knees, feet, elbow, or straight arm, okay? That one they will switch at the halfway point, switching sides.